But what's intriguing here is that after Franklin dies, Eleanor seems to come into her own in the larger political sphere. That is, we know she's always worked in these projects and so on that she's interested in and for social justice, but now she can actually take a visible, active role in a global sense that turns her into a player in her own right, as it were.
Yes. Right. And she writes a book called On My Own. And she is on her own, and she's very happy not to be sort of muzzled by the political needs of her husband, although as an ambassador, she's muzzled by the political needs of the State Department. And so she's a player. Right. But she's a player, as she writes in her memoir, On My Own.
You say muzzled, but she had been writing a column, a
yes.
newspaper column for years.
Well, but if he says, if FDR said, please don't write about that, we can't afford to upset these people, then she doesn't. She doesn't. Mostly he doesn't interfere, but on two big issues which become very important, he does interfere, and he doesn't want her to say anything about, for example, segregation in the military. Mm. She goes on a tour to England, and she sees how integrated the British situation is. The servicemen and women in England are not segregated. There are signs on British pubs. This pub is for British citizens and colored American troops only, because they're so offended by the racism and violence of the southern U.S. troops. And so
So they will admit black American troops, but not white American troops. That's wonderful.
Yes, and British citizens. And then, so she comes back, and we have to deal with this. The military has to be integrated. And he says, no, don't say a word. I need the Dixiecrats. I need their support for all kinds of other things.
So she doesn't talk about it.
So she doesn't write about it. But she organizes with the NAACP, and, she's called Lady Greatheart by the Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, who calls her Lady Greatheart and said she did everything to make life more bearable and to give us hope where FDR didn't do a damn thing. Mm. And so Thurgood Marshall was very clear about that.
And the other issue?
And the other issue is rescue. Can we make an issue out of what the Nazis are doing to refugees, to Jewish people? And there's all of this myth that we didn't know what was going on, when in fact we knew everything every day. And by 1942, in November 17th, 1942, the British Parliament stands for an hour of silence, a moment of silence, because of the slaughter which has already killed 2 million people. And there's a complete news whiteout.
In the United States.
In the United States. And Eleanor Roosevelt works with all kinds of the Friends of German Freedom, the underground, to get people out. She's responsible for the Varian Fry Rescue Committee. She is absolutely there, and she speaks on the radio with Peter Bergson, who's Hillel Cook, to protest, but mostly she's silent.